Welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 325.
Be who you are and say what you feel.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Do you know the best way to protect your vehicle, both the exterior and interior, is with a car cover? I've been using Covercraft car covers since 1975. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. 2015 marks Covercraft's 50th anniversary. They've manufactured premium quality exterior and interior covers here in the United States with a reputation for durability and design. They're the world's largest manufacturer of custom patterned vehicle covers that are crafted to fit, with over 80,000 patterns and growing. You can choose from dozens of fabric options and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicle. Made in the USA, Covercraft is the right choice. I've protected my special rides with their covers for over 40 years, and you should too. Learn more today at covercraft.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I am revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, Ruben Verdes. Ruben, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I sure am.
All right. Great to have you here. Ruben Verdes is the president of the Rolls-Royce Owners Club, known as the RROC. He's also on the board of directors of the Rolls-Royce Foundation, an organization that exists to promote preservation and historical pursuits, as well as managing a museum exhibiting Rolls-Royce and Bentley automobiles in Pennsylvania. He's a writer and contributes to various enthusiast and lifestyle publications, and is heavily involved in various annual automotive events that sponsor charities. And when he's not playing with Rolls-Royces, Ruben is an entrepreneur with an international banking background, an automotive historian, a writer, and a believer in the power of charitable endeavors. So, Ruben, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a moment and share a little more about your career and, of course, your passion for Rolls-Royce automobiles?
Well, I think this story has probably been told many times by many enthusiasts that talk about growing up and pointing to their fathers as the first enthusiast that influenced them.
Yes.
And my father and I used to play a game, and I think this game's been played all over, and that's you're out driving, and the game is you point to a car and you have to say what it is, what year, make, model, and that sort of thing.
Cool.
And I'm from New York. I grew up there, and one day we're driving around, and all of a sudden there's this car that goes by. At the time, it was a Silver Cloud. I didn't know that. I said, "Well, Dad, what's that?" Now, my dad has a special sense of humor, let's put it that way. And he's already got his wheels turning. He's going to use this. He starts off by saying, "Well, that's a Rolls Royce." Leaves it right there. I say, "Well, wow, what's a Rolls Royce?" He goes, "Well, that's an English car, and it's made by hand. All right? Takes months to build, and no Rolls Royce leaves the factory unless it's perfect." Okay, fine. At the time, it was a Silver Cloud. Probably the most iconic Rolls-Royce. If you tell anybody, picture a Rolls-Royce, they'll probably point to a Silver Cloud.
Yep.
The infamous Grey Poupon cars.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And inevitably, fast forward, came the question, because at the same time that the Silver Clouds were around, the Bentley S1 was the counterpart model, because both Bentley and Rolls-Royce, they were made in the same factory. Bentley was acquired by Rolls-Royce in 1931, although today they're separate companies.
Mm-hmm.
And the inevitable question was, "Well, Dad, what's the difference between a Rolls-Royce and a Bentley?" I'll save the answer to that one because I think I might stun your viewers with my father's sense of humor. But the usual answer to that is $400.
I love it. $400. Oh, awesome.
The difference between the grills or the radiators.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Silver Cloud, that's the car that my wife Jill and I drove away from the church in almost 31 years ago now. Beautiful car that we were able to borrow and have somebody drive for us. And felt pretty special in that vehicle, as anybody would in any Rolls-Royce. And you're going to talk more as we move through our conversation here about Rolls-Royce, of course, and your involvement with that wonderful marque. As we continue on your journey today, I'd like to start with a success quote. It's some kind of a saying that's been instrumental in forming your life and your success, and it's a great way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So I'll say, Ruben, pass the Grey Poupon and take the wheel.
Well, this is difficult because there's so many great quotes out there, and probably a ton of them come from Winston Churchill. And they've probably been used before. But the one that always comes to mind, especially in moments when you have to speak, is one that's attributable to Dr. Seuss.
Oh.
Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
I love that quote. Dr. Seuss grew up in the city. I grew up in La Jolla, just up the hill from us. And, of course...
Oh, you probably know the quote then.
I love Dr. Seuss. Just all the books, of course, when I was a kid. What a great guy. And his involvement in the community where I grew up was pretty grand. But how have you incorporated that quote into your life and your business and your involvement with Rolls-Royce?
Well, overall, the main message there is you could try to be somebody else. That only lasts a little while. You need to capitalize on something, and you might as well capitalize on yourself and who you are. Try to be genuine. And I think everything flows from that. It's funny because the Rolls-Royces and the Bentleys of the world, they're perceived as, yes, very high-status items, but believe it or not, in a way they're very humble because you can own. In fact, the Rolls-Royce may very well be the cheapest car you can own. Why? Because you can have one all your life.
Okay.
Think about how many times you buy cars. If you buy a car once every 5 years, say you buy, well, I'm not going to pick on a car. That would be disparagement. But pick any car, you buy that 5 times, you start to rival the cost of a Rolls-Royce, particularly if you buy a vintage Rolls-Royce.
Sure. Oh, I love that. And, you hit on something pretty special there, and that is be yourself. Use who you are to your advantage. Being around car guys, car people can sniff out a non-car guy pretty quick, even if he's trying to pretend that he knows something about the cars, because we're so passionate about these vehicles and the knowledge is so deep. But
yes.
Great quote, great concept. I love that. And you talk about going back to those wonderful days with your father and the game you played in the car of identifying vehicles. I think that's great. Would you share a story with us that instigated your passion for cars? I'd love to know about that pivotal moment as you remember it, when you really knew you were a car guy.
If I were to point to one moment where it all coalesced, I would have to say that was for my 16th birthday. At the time in New York, you can get a learner's permit at 16 years of age. And I clearly remember my mother asking me, well, what do you want for your 16th birthday? And I said, I want to lift to the motor vehicle, and I'm driving home. So we went to the motor vehicle. I got my learner's permit because I passed the test without, why study? You know all this stuff. So, and I walked out with my learner's permit and I drove home. I never had a driving lesson or anything. Some things you just know you can do.
Cool.
And I don't think that happens with somebody where it doesn't resonate. And I think that's probably true, not just about cars, but whatever a collector gets involved with, because speaking of quotes, how's this one from Jay Leno that always sticks with me? And he was talking about Duesenbergs, and I think he was asked a similar question. What is it with these cars? And he said something along the lines of, there's a visceral kind of feel to these cars. Either you get it or you don't.
Yes.
And I think it works on that level. You see it, it makes noise, it stirs your heart, and you can go places. I mean, where can you do something like get up in the morning, open a door, get in, and then a few hours later be hundreds of miles away? It's a great sense of freedom. There's so many things that are intertwined in the whole car movement. art, mechanics, adventure. You can't do that with, a lot of things.
Well, and the people as well, because the people we
That's
meet.
the adventure.
That's
Yes,
the
it
adventures,
is.
yeah. The people we meet in and around the car hobby, the car culture, involvement in clubs, forums, and so forth. Just magnificent group of people. That's why I love what I'm doing so much, because I get to meet some pretty cool people every day. Ruben, what I'd love to do now is take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and crawl under the hood and ask you to share a huge challenge or a great failure that you faced along the way in your career. Your main career is in the banking industry. We all know that back in 2008, we had some challenges, and maybe that's something you'll share with us. I don't know. But the most important part of this question has to do with how did you overcome that particular situation, and what did it teach you? What did you learn from it?
Well, there have been several along the way, but they're all characterized by the same thing. I mean, it's a challenge. You face it in business, and you're at an impasse. The environment has changed. Like the example you cite, the markets have changed. This has happened to me several times. And what you have to do is, again, be introspective, think of what matters to you, and try to make a plan. It's always important to make a plan. And like any plan, particularly just like battle plans, you could throw it out the first day of the battle, but it kind of focuses your mind. So you want to try the best you can to make a plan and hone into that focus. And by doing so, you also re-examine, again, what's important to you. I would probably say that 25 years ago, if you sat me down and said that I would have served as the president of the Rolls-Royce Owners Club, and I would be writing and doing all the different things that I do in the car world, I guess my reaction would be, well, it kind of fits, but I doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
And simply because your life can change trajectories and not be so much a force change, just an enhancement. And the car thing has been something that has always been there. It's always been there. And it's kind of like a genetic trait. Sometimes it takes a while to express itself.
Sure.
So I think it's that focus that helps you through any kind of challenge, whether it be in business or in your personal life.
Well, is there a particular instance that happened to you that you can get into a little bit here to help the listeners understand how that focus is so important? A big challenge you met, maybe it was something through the Rolls-Royce Club, through a car ownership, or something that would tie that concept back into an actual event.
Well, one of the big surprises of my involvement in cars is learning its deepest revelation is, yeah, they're cars, but it's really about the people. Mm-hmm. I know this may sound cliche, but your brain has to be wired a certain way, I think, to be a car enthusiast. Mm-hmm. You have to be optimistic. You can't be a pessimistic car enthusiast. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you do when you break down on the side of the road? You kill yourself. So depending on what your favorite aspect of the car movement is, whether it's technical or the art of it, it generally points to a certain kind of character. And again, it's visceral and it resonates, and you can draw strength from it. I have a son that's autistic, mm-hmm. and he is a car guy. This is cool. The most amazing thing to me because he is basically without the use of language. You cannot engage him in a conversation. Mm-hmm. But yet, I know he's a car guy. How? Even to get a few words out, he'll walk up to me, look at me, and I know that he's stirring something up, and he'll just spit out to me, "Go for a spin." And I know what that means. He wants to go out for a ride in the car.
Oh yeah.
When we go to a car show, and what I mean is like not like a Concours, but
like a Cars and Coffee maybe, or something like that.
Right. So, or an auto show that's commercial.
Oh, okay.
Like Coliseum or something.
Sure. Yeah, like an international auto show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tongue-tied there for a minute. He wants to sit in all the cars.
Cool.
He just, that's his thing.
Yeah.
And I've taken him to plenty of Rolls-Royce Owners Club events, and he just connects with it. In fact, in the next issue of our magazine, there's a picture of him smiling ear to ear because he's sitting in the back of an early Silver Ghost. And this is
cool.
A 100-year-old car, and he's, he gets it.
Yeah.
Put a lot of people in the back of that car, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm sitting in the back of an old car."
Yeah, yeah. He understands.
He gets it.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways to connect, and that's the revelation for me.
Yeah.
You join clubs and you get involved because of the cars, but you stay in them and you keep on because of the people.
Absolutely. It is about the people. And thanks for sharing a really personal story with us. I think that's fantastic. It transcends the car passion that people have, no matter what place they are in life, where they are in life, or where they are in the world, really. So that story about your son is actually so heartwarming and so special. I think that's really wonderful. Let's shift gears here and go to the other end of the spectrum. I'd love for you to share a kind of an aha moment in your career or your involvement with Rolls-Royce, of course. And it's one of those times I like to say where the headlights came on and illuminated your way for a new direction or a new idea that you had. And tell us the steps you took to turn that aha moment into your success.
There's so much that's involved in how many different ways you engage the car world. I also, in all of that, never thought that I would end up doing so much writing and really the whole history end of it, sparking so much interest. And a lot of these marques, not just Rolls-Royce and Bentley, obviously, have illustrious histories and very interesting people that were involved along the way, both involved in producing the cars and owning the cars. Well, even how these companies got started. Rolls-Royce is often called the best car in the world. And it's kind of funny that anybody would call anything the best car in the world. I mean, you don't see the best dishwasher in the world. and for some reason, people, when they want to say something is the best, they call it the Rolls-Royce of whatever it is.
Sure.
Meanwhile, the guy who designed these cars had, speaking of quotes, a very well-known quote in club circles that goes, "Whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble."
Yes.
And this is like that pursuit of perfection. And we're talking about Henry Royce.
Yes.
Had a tremendous amount of influence, obviously, both in the company and how the culture evolved in that company. Another one is take the best of what exists and make it better. When it doesn't exist, design it. And the reason I'm saying this is there's kind of a Don Quixote aspect to this. There can't be a perfect car. There can't be you could say the best, but if you're a car maker and you want it to be the best thing to do is say that it is.
Right.
And if you're going along those lines, I think that's what appealed to me the most. So I think that this ties into what I was saying before. If there's an aha moment, it's knowing that you want to pursue what's perfect, but nothing is going to be perfect. We live in a world and an existence of contradictions, and you try the best that you can, and everything is a challenge. I can't narrow anything down to an exact aha moment. The best I could tell you is what I've just said about that direction, that almost contradiction,
Sure.
that Don Quixote aspect of chasing windmills and thinking that, you could reach the impossible dream, and always stay, in focus with what's coming next.
Sure.
And I think that we often feel that we've reached our best, reached our pinnacle, and it's downhill. And that could never be the case for somebody who's always looking for that next thing, that next challenge.
Sure. No, I'm very familiar with those Rolls-Royce quotes. I've had several guests repeat them. And in my previous career, the striving for perfection quote was a part of the business mantra that we were involved in. So absolutely understand that, and the awareness is key. How about proudest career moments or proudest moments in your involvement with the Rolls-Royce Club? Is there one in particular that stands out for you?
Well, let's take the club first. Back in 2007, we had a meet in Daytona Beach, which is the Ormond Beach area, very famous in early automotive history because Daytona and Ormond particularly have a very special beach where they had races and they could actually do high speed, world speed record trials.
Right.
And back in 1907, a lot of people don't know this, but Rolls-Royce has a racing history. Okay, Charlie Rolls, he won the Tourist Trophy, and he bought a 4-cylinder, 20 horsepower, very early Rolls-Royce, and he raced it in New York and Yonkers and the Empire Track, and he had it shipped down, and his mechanician stayed behind and raced it in Ormond Beach. Now, the entire production of Rolls-Royce before 1907 was just over 100 cars, split between 5 different models.
Wow.
So there's not a lot of cars.
Pretty rare.
Yeah. So there are only 3 of these 4-cylinder, 20 horsepower cars left on the planet. And one of them was in England, and it was restored to look very much like the vehicle that raced in 1907. And it's owned by a spectacular enthusiast. His name is John Kennedy, of all names. And long story short, it's too long already, but we arranged to have the car shipped and do an entire event around celebrating 100 years since that car ran on Ormond Beach in 1907.
Oh, wow.
And we recreated its run, but supplemented with an entire parade of Rolls-Royces spanning the entire production history. So we had that car at the lead, running on the beach, along with Silver Ghosts, Phantom 1s, Phantom 2s, Phantom 3s, Wraiths, Silver Clouds, everything.
Wow.
Going along on Ormond Beach. And we all had just a wonderful blast, but it was quite a feat. It took 6 months just
planning.
To deal,
yeah. Oh,
just
my
to
goodness.
deal with the car, because think about it, I'm exporting a car from England and it's not even my car to bring over to an event.
Oh, yeah.
It was quite a bit to get it done. So that's on the club side.
Yeah.
And I guess in my banking career, there's all sorts of highs. I think I enjoyed being the chief financial officer of a bank in Miami. Unfortunately, it went out of business because you talk about hurdles. In 2002, the Argentine market tanked, and the bank had a lot of positions with banks in Argentina.
Oh,
and the banks were fine, but there was no way to get anything out of Argentina.
Right.
So I ended up helping to liquidate the bank, and you learn a lot from that. You talk about an adverse moment. Well, that really focuses you.
Oh, yes.
And as a dichotomy for the time, right in the middle of that going on, we had a national meet for the Rolls-Royce Owners Club, and I heard that I was winning an award for the Florida magazine I used to be editor of at the time. And this is I don't know, almost 15 years ago. And again, those are the sorts of things that focus you. But it was very interesting to work. The financial world has many different products, worlds. When you're in a senior position in the bank, it really is both a technical and exhilarating experience. It certainly gives you a lot of perspective when you turn on the evening news and you watch people talk about finances.
That's why I leave the news turned off. Wow. Well, amazing stories, and wonderful that you'd share those with us. I think it's fantastic. That event, I wish I could have been there. That must have been absolutely spectacular.
There were pictures.
Pictures. I'm sure we can find those out on the internet. Let's have a little bit of fun. What was your first really special vehicle? And if you could share a memory you have with that car.
The vehicle I think I enjoyed the most is, along with a business partner, um, I used to, we all talk of ourselves as caretakers of this. I was caretaker for a 1956 Silver Wraith. If you ever saw the movie Arthur with Dudley
Yes.
Moore, that very car used to parade around here in Florida, and we had a ball with it.
Hmm.
And everywhere that car went, it was a party. These days, as time goes on, more and more people don't remember that movie, but in the time that we had the car, it was just a blast. Wherever we went, everybody would look at it and go, "Hey, is that?" And we go, "Yeah, that's
That's the car. What
that's
fun.
I never got to do one thing. I always wanted to take it up to New York, drive up to the plaza, and fall out of the car."
Well, probably better you didn't these days, because that picture would be on the internet everywhere. Probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be a good representation of who you
No.
really are.
No.
But it's fun to think about. How about a special vehicle that you let go that you really wish you had back in your garage?
Well, that's easy. And actually, I came very close to owning it, and I decided not to buy it. And at the time, it was definitely, and this is a departure from usual stories. You hear about people buying a car that they shouldn't have, and it was a disaster. I was avoiding disaster. I was the voice of reason here. And I went to see, this is the late 80s, I went to see a car in Staten Island. It was a 190 SL. Cream, red interior, beautiful white steering wheel. And it was, all my life I've been a 190 SL enthusiast because I've always recognized what the car is. A lot of people would say, "Oh, that thing is just so slow." And they would superimpose their impressions of a 300 SL on it, and it's not that car. It's a boulevard cruiser. And I would always say to people, you can't get behind the wheel of that car with the top down and drive and not smile. Okay? It's a boulevard cruiser, and it's just fun, particularly in Florida. So I was very close to finishing the deal, and my deal with the then owner was, I have somebody to come to look the car over mechanically. The guy came, he looked it over, he got under the car, and he takes me aside, he goes, "Don't buy this car. It's crushed." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "The bottom is about to fall out of it."
Yeah.
And we know these things love to rust.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been vindicated in a sense, because these days, a 190 SL is kind of a prized item.
Oh, yeah. And being more and more prized as the
Yeah.
rising
Well,
tide
hey,
of cars has brought up the
Yes.
values of, especially the 190s, because the 300s are well over $1 million now. And yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, well. Well, maybe someday we'll get you back in one of those. How about current projects? Is there something you guys are working on at the Rolls-Royce Owners Club right now that really has you excited?
Well, there are. We're formulating different approaches to recognize our Bentley side more and more. Many people don't realize, but there are almost as many Bentleys in the Rolls-Royce Owners Club than Rolls-Royces.
Okay.
And that's because up until recently, and that's 2003, they were the same company. Both cars were coming out since 1931, since that time. First in the Derby factory, then after World War II in Crewe. Both Rolls-Royces and Bentley had that shared heritage. In fact, for many years, the platforms were the same. Going back to our earlier joke, the only difference was
$400.
$400,
Yeah.
exactly. So now we're in an era where both marks, I could say that the vitality is palatable. I mean, they have their own signature, their own identity, and if you look at it objectively, the separation makes these two marks vital and have their own signature. But the reality is, for a club like ours that was started in 1951, we grew up and have existed for most of our lives honoring both marks. So when you hear Rolls-Royce Owners Club, particularly to the ears of younger folks that are coming into the car enthusiast world, believe it or not, many don't know that they were the same company. So the question becomes, how do we make the Rolls-Royce Owners Club more visible in Bentley green, as it were? So we're exploring that. That's a project that's underway right now. And so stay tuned. That's something that, again, is going to be more Bentley focused.
Yeah.
And a club within a club, as it were.
Oh, I love that idea. I think it's a great idea. It just brings more people together, more enthusiasm, a little bit more diversity in the respects of branching out, if you will, beyond your own specialized mark. So I think it's a great idea.
Before we move on, I'll just mention one quick other thing is, because we're so concentrated on heritage and tradition, we shudder at the thought of changing our name. But these days, the Rolls-Royce Owners Club is really a misnomer, because you don't have to be an owner to be a member of the Owners Club.
Well,
it's
like
an
so many,
club.
like so many marks,
So that gets in the way of a lot of people, because when they find out, oh, you're the president, and by the way, I'm just recently retired for just a few days. We had a board meeting, and there was a passing of the baton, so there's a new president in town.
All right.
But unfortunately, they only give me a 2-year term limit. We might want to consider that for president.
Oh, gosh. Why did you know I was thinking of that? Yeah. Well, anyway, we won't infuse politics. No, let's not go there. No.
But that's just it. So I'm often asked, "Oh, you're the president? Wow! How can I wish I could join, but I don't have a Rolls Royce."
Yeah, right.
I say, "No. Well, all you need is $70 and
a passion.
A passion. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's great that clubs do that don't require you to own a car, because someday, most of us aspire to have these vehicles that we dream about, whether it's a Rolls-Royce, a Bentley, a Ferrari, a Maserati, you pick it, whatever it might be. And the opportunity to be involved in a club, contribute your time and effort and expertise and learn from others, you'll eventually get there, because you'll start to have friends, those friends of friends, and before you know it, they'll know where to steer you, to use a pun, to find the right car, the right vehicle for you. Now, here's a very introspective question for you, Ruben. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be, and why?
Oh, yes. Wow. Probably the most rational answer to that is a big gas guzzler.
A big gas guzzler.
But I'll twist and hijack that question a little bit. I'm often asked, "Oh, well, you're the president of the Rolls-Royce Owners Club. What's your favorite Rolls-Royce?" And I have no. This is the easiest question for me. A 1905 V8. And people look at me and they go, "Well, that's not a Rolls-Royce." Well, it was. Among the 5 different models that I was telling you before that they made, they made a V8, 90-degree V8 Rolls-Royce motor car chassis in 1905. And they did that because they wanted to compete with electric cars that were all the rage. Why? Because what did the gentry want? They didn't want cars that smoked, smelled, and made big loud noises. They wanted the electric cars that were completely smooth. They didn't go far, but just like today, they don't make a sound. So here they have this brilliant engineer, Henry Royce, and they say, let's corner the market here. Let's make a petrol car that's as good as an electric car. So they made this horseless carriage, and they called it the Invisible. And only made a handful of these. In fact, only 3 were known to be made. But in a total production of just over 100 cars, that's, not too bad. And they called it the Invisible because it was a horseless carriage, and you didn't know where the engine was. And, of course, it was placed under the driver. And the fun thing about it is it's the only Rolls-Royce without the famous Rolls-Royce grille.
Interesting. Wow. So Ruben is a 1905 Invisible.
That's right. And this gets even funnier because there are no detailed pictures of the car, so it literally is invisible.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that is a unique answer to that question for sure. So, Ruben, up next is the last lap. But before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsor. Have you turned your key and heard that dreaded tick, 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 tick because of a dead battery? No worries. I've got the NOCO Genius Boost Jump Starter. This compact tool fits in your glove box and features rechargeable lithium battery technology that will start a dead battery in your car, boat, truck, or RV. It packs a whopping 12-volt, 400 amp starting power and can start up to 20 dead batteries on a single charge. Plus, it has built-in spark-proof technology with reverse polarity protection to safely jumpstart your vehicle. The compact, ergonomically designed clamps are solid copper for maximum conductivity, and there's a built-in ultra-bright dual LED flashlight with 7 modes, including an SOS emergency strobe. It's easily rechargeable with a USB outlet, and you can charge your smartphone or tablet while you're on the road. Works on any 12-volt lead-acid battery. The Genius Boost from NOCO is the ultimate emergency tool that's safe and easy to use. Quality design, state-of-the-art technology from NOCO, your battery care source since 1914. Get yours at geniuschargers.com. Okay, Ruben, we're back and we're entering the last lap. And this is where I'm going to fire off a series of questions, and you give our listeners some real quick blips of the throttle answers. You ready?
Shoot.
What is the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Be ready to walk away.
Great advice. Yes.
Whatever the deal may be, you want it, and this is hard because sometimes you want that 190 SL.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to walk away.
Be ready to great advice. And it's real good advice for business as well.
Yes, it is.
Would you share one of your personal habits that you believe has contributed to your success over the years?
Being focused and planning what you're going to do and how you organize your work is very helpful. We have a tendency to jump into things, and sometimes you have no choice. You have a deadline. You have to get things done. But planning always helps you identify those things that you probably wouldn't have considered so.
Yes, and you said another word there, focus. It's a great acronym for focus. Follow one course until successful.
Exactly.
So, great way to think about that. Do you have a resource that you think our listeners would really enjoy?
I mentioned a couple that are near and dear, of course, because I'm members of those clubs. But I love Hemming's website, also Old Cars Weekly. And when you visit these websites, a lot of them now have free newsletters that you can get, emails with updates and offers. You'd be surprised how many those come up with really good specials. Mentioning Old Cars Weekly, sometimes they shoot out an email where they give very special offers to buying certain catalogs, books, and price guides and things like that.
Sure.
So I would check those out.
Great resources. How about a book? Is there one book in particular you think the Cars Yeah listeners would really enjoy reading?
I'm thinking whoever's listening to me is thinking Rolls-Royce, and if I were to point to one book that I enjoy, is one that was put out many years ago by Mr. Morton. It's called The History of Rolls-Royce Volume 1, and it's that very early history. And it touches into how the company started, and it's addressed in a way that is unique. It is just not really gone into depth anywhere else that I've ever seen. And it's a history of Rolls-Royce motor cars by C.W. Morton, Volume 1, 1903 to 1907.
Perfect. And I know I have a good friend, Tim, who is a Rolls-Royce fanatic. I've known him since college. His father married my wife and I, and he's probably smiling right now because he goes, yep, I've got that on my library shelf. So
I'm going to recommend just one more, but it's not out yet, and it's the book that I'm working on.
Oh, and what's that? Yeah, please do.
It's called Rolls-Royce in America by John Webb DeCampi, and that's a book that talks about the American Rolls-Royce. A lot of people don't know that Rolls-Royce had a factory in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Yes.
And the cars were made here, and they were bodied here. This edition came out in 1975, so there's a new edition that I'm working on. Still, John was a personal friend of mine. This is a labor of love. I want to make the best book possible, but we're going to add to it, and we're going to fast forward the history right up until today. So it's going to be a contemporary book, looking back through the Rolls-Royce world in America.
Very cool.
And it's going to be put out by Dalton Watson.
Oh, great. When will that book be available? Do you have a press date yet?
You sound like my publisher. No, I don't have a date yet. Let's just say it's on an ASAP schedule.
schedule. Okay, I understand. We can't wait for
Yes.
that book. And listeners, you'll find all these great resources and links to them on Ruben's show notes page at carsyeah.com. Just put Ruben in the search bar and his page will pop right up. All right, Ruben, we're up to the checkered flag. And this last question, to quote another great Mark, can be a real doozy. If you could only have one collector car in your garage, but don't worry about the cost, because today I'm going to write the check, but you can't sell it. You got to keep it. Got to drive it. You got to have fun with it. What would that one vehicle be and why?
Only because it can only be one vehicle and it's a collector car. It's very easy for me. I'd love to have a Type 41 Bugatti Royale. I know it's huge. I know it's completely impractical, but that Binder Sedanka, it's to die for. It is just a piece of art that is incredible.
Oh, gosh. Well, see, when I buy you that car, now I'm going to have to buy you a bigger garage because you're going to need a big garage to park that
Yes,
thing.
I think I will.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you're the first one to pick a Royale. Very interesting choice, although I kind of understand being a guy who likes Rolls Royces, larger cars, but wow, what a special vehicle.
Well, you only gave me one choice.
Well, that's all you get. I'm sorry.
That's all I get.
Again, you're my 325th guest. I have bought a lot of cars over the last 13 months now. I've got to dip into the real deep savings to buy this one, my friend. So I'll do my best, okay? Ruben, you've taken me on a great ride. I knew you would in a Rolls Royce today, of course. And I've really enjoyed your stories and meeting you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to thank you for sharing your journey with the Cars Yeah listeners and with me. Could you give us one parting piece of guidance before you drive off into the sunset in that Type 41 Bugatti Royale?
Well, I'll share something that I'm asked quite frequently. I'm very privileged to know some very good collectors with amazing collections. And sometimes we get into a conversation. They ask me, should I show such and such car? I don't know if it's good enough. And my answer is always the same. I say, don't think about it. Sign up, show the car. And the reason for that is people need to see these cars. It becomes real when you see it. A picture is good. A description may make you remember. Remember my V8 car. You can't even see it, so it's out of sight and out of mind. But I always ask them, and when you're there, even if it's for display, don't even have it judged. When a little boy or a little girl comes up to the car, invite them to look inside, let them sit inside. They will tell that story for the rest of their life. And if it all works right, they'll be the next generation of car enthusiasts.
Such great advice in so many ways. I just surpassed a milestone here at Cars Yeah a few days ago, show number 300. And I had my son interview me, and in the show we talk about that because he's 21 now, but I've been taking him to car shows since he was about 4 years old.
Yeah.
He's been on the lawn at Pebble Beach 12, 13 times, and I can't tell you how many times somebody plopped him down in a car, and he talked about that forever and ever. And, of course, he's a car guy. Yeah, like his dad. And so important. Share your vehicles. Get them out there. Share them with people. Talk with people. Help people. And again, with the kids, yes, they will tell that story forever and forever and forever. So great advice. I love that. What's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and the Rolls-Royce Owners Club?
Well, the best way is to go on the website, RROC, of course, standing for Rolls-Royce Owners Club, rroc.org, and the Society of Automotive Historians, and that's simple too, autohistory.org, and join a club. Join those, get involved. You'll meet people and make friendships that'll last you your whole life.
Absolutely. And listeners, again, you can find links to everything that Ruben has been so kind to share with us today at carsyeah.com/Ruben Verdes. His last name is spelled Verdes. Ruben, thank you for being so generous with your time and your expertise and for sharing your experiences with me and the listeners. It's been such fun. Until we talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah!